Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Space News for Tuesday, November 13th. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Kyle Henry. Let's talk about what's going on in space.
I never want to hold again.
Falcon Heavy is in startup.
Go Atlas. Go Centaur. Status check.
Go Delta.
5, 4, 3,
Ignition.
Our top story, we're going to begin over in Russia, where Dmitry Rogozin, the Director General of Roscosmos, has been giving some updates on Roscosmos' plans in the near future. Quick note, these were translated from translated from Twitter using Microsoft, so there could be some things wrong. I don't speak Russian or read Russian, and so we're pretty sure that these are all, from what I read, most of it made sense. There were occasionally a couple of sentences where you had to really do some deducing, but we're going to give it to you. But yeah. So, first off, by 2020, the Soyuz FG will be having its final flight. The Soyuz FG is currently what's used for crewed flights to the ISS. We kind of already knew that this was being phased out, and they were switching to the Soyuz 2.1, but this gives us a more hard date as to when that switch is occurring. Next up, the Soyuz 5 will have its first flight in a medium variant in 2022. Sorry. Soyuz 5 seems to be what's going to become the next super heavy vehicle for Russia. It's kind of interesting to see, and we'll keep going as we go, so we'll come back to Soyuz 5 at the end here. But next up, the Proton M, which I believe is the final version of Proton that's still flying, will have its final flight in 2025. That will end Proton's career likely, unless something drastically changes. I know they'd been considering new variants of Proton that are more medium class and a bit lighter, or a bit cheaper and stuff to sort of compete with other vehicles on the market, but I believe those plans are sort of scrapped after no one was really interested in them. But yeah. So Proton might be having its end of its life by 2025. And the Angara 5V will have first flights with hydrogen upper stages in 2026. This is where the Russian way is sort of becoming a bit weird. Angara is a vehicle that's been in development for a while now and been used 2 or 3 flights, I believe. And it seemed like Soyuz 5 might have been a replacement to Angara, but apparently now they're both going to be flying. Angara is, I believe it's in that Delta 4 sort of class of vehicles, has a really light variant that can only carry so much, but then a heavier variant that can carry a bit into space, so yeah. But then, the Soyuz 5 Super Heavy vehicle will be launching for its first time in 2028. Obviously, these are all depending on everything going right and, funding happening. So, these could change, but these are the dates that we have right now. So, yeah. Good luck to Roscosmos as they continue on. Next up, staying in Russia, the Progress MS-10 vehicle was encapsulated in its fairing for launch later this week. That launch is scheduled for Friday, but more on that in later on in the show. Switching over to the commercial sector, Virgin Orbit has conducted a taxi test with the Launcher 1. This involved the vehicle basically going, I think the max speed was 120 knots. Never really taking off, but basically just doing it on a runway and seeing how it looks there. This is leading up to a captive carry test. We don't really have a date for when this test could take place, but we're going to assume it's going to be in either by the end of this year or early next year. So good luck to Virgin Orbit. Next, switching over to SpaceX, they conducted a static fire for the S-HALE-2 mission. The static fire took place yesterday, and we now know that booster 1047 that previously flew on the Telstar 18V mission in July will be flying this flight for S-HALE-2. But Again, more on that later when we talk about the upcoming launches. But staying with SpaceX, a Falcon Heavy side booster was spotted in Arizona and is likely headed to McGregor for testing. It could go directly to Cape Canaveral, but it's more likely to be headed straight for McGregor for testing, unless this is a new booster that's been changed, but that doesn't seem to be, or a used booster that's been changed like they did with the last ones, but that doesn't seem to be what happened here. So we're getting close to the next Falcon Heavy launch. I believe it's slated for early next year and is going to be the Arabsat launch. I'd have to check the manifest, but I'm pretty sure that's the Falcon Heavy launch. But one launch took place between today's episode and Friday's episode, and that was the Rocket Lab's launch of its business time. That launch successfully took place on Saturday at 10:57 p.m. Eastern Time and successfully placed 7 satellites into a sun-synchronous orbit. These were all CubeSats, so good job, Rocket Labs. But we have a couple of upcoming launches in the next couple of days. First off, the GSAT-29 will launch aboard a GSLV Mark III from India. This is happening from the Saharish Dhawan Space Center in India. Probably butchered that to ISRO. You guys are awesome. I'm terrible with pronunciation, as I've said many times on this show. But they will be placing GSAT-29 into a geostationary transfer orbit. This is I believe this is the third flight of the GSLV Mark III, which is a newer version of the geosynchronous geostationary launch vehicle family. This vehicle kind of reminds me of Titan, like the boosters light on the ground and then the core lights a bit later on, if I'm remembering the staging correctly. So yeah, kind of a cool vehicle. But next up, we have an Antares launch from Wallops Island. This will carry the Cygnus and Northrop Grumman 10 vehicle to the ISS, and that is scheduled for November 15th at 4:49:38 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note, we might not have an episode on Friday. The Antares launch right now has a 30% chance of good weather on Thursday morning, and then I think 35% chance on Friday morning, and we're actually going to be at that launch. So if for some reason it gets delayed into Friday and into Saturday, we're not going to be in studio, and so we won't be able to cover the news. So we're actually going to go through all the upcoming launches between now and Tuesday's episode, just in case. But as of right now, it's still on track for a Thursday launch, and if it happens on Thursday, we'll have an episode on Friday. So yay! But like we mentioned earlier, the SHALE-2 mission is launching from Kennedy Space Center aboard a Falcon 9. That launch is currently scheduled for November 15th between 3:46 and 5:29 p.m. Eastern Time. And then over in Baikonur, we have a Progress MS-10 launch. That launch is currently scheduled for November 16th at 1:14:08 p.m. Eastern Time. This will be the first Soyuz spacecraft type vehicle to launch since the MS-10 failure. I know that Progress and Soyuz are different, but they're very similar in the same way, Whatever. But then, out of China, we have a Long March 3B launch. That launch will carry 2 Beidou satellites to a medium Earth orbit from Xichang. And that launch is currently scheduled for November 19th, and we don't know what time because it's China. So, what are you going to do? But I'm Kyle Henry. Thank you so much for watching. We post newscasts like this every Tuesday and Friday. So if you enjoyed, hit the like and subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you can stay up to date on what's going on in space. We also post the sources for today's stories in the description down below, so you can check our facts. And if something doesn't seem right, let us know. We strive for 100% accuracy in our coverage. Thank you so much for joining us. Goodbye.